Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ma'am, and my dear classmate. How are you today? I hope you all always healthy and good every day. Today, I will present my homework about review of chemistry education articles. Before I start, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ayu Aksari. I'm PM28 and I'm from B class. I'm so glad to finish my homework and I will present it today, which is the title of the journal I will review is Virtual Laboratory in the Role of Dynamic Visualization for Better Understanding of Chemistry in Primary School. Do you ever listen about virtual laboratory? I thought you knew about it or you even tried before. Okay, the first I will present about component of journal. The title of journal is Virtual Laboratory in the Role of Dynamic Visualization for Better Understanding of Chemistry in Primary School. The journal name is Eurasia Journal of Mathematics, Science and Technology Education, page 593 until 608, years 2016, authors Nataša Risman Herga, Primary School, Ormož, Slovenia, Branka Kargan and Dejan Divanci, University of Maribor, Slovenia. Reviewer me, Ayu Aksari, date 2nd of December. Keyword Virtual Laboratory, Submicroscopies, Animation, Primary School, Chemistry, Knowledge, and Dynamic Visualization. Okay, next is introduction. I have 3 points to present. The first is main point, second fact and a positive aspect, and third is gaps and contradiction in text. What is the main point of journal? Throughout my reading of this article, it becomes clear that it focuses on the role of virtual laboratory in enhancing concept to understanding at the submicroscopic level. And then what is the fact of our journal? The authors began the paper by providing a statement based on the result of several studies which state the elementary, middle school, and university students have difficult understanding the concept at the submicroscopic level because it shows that the submicroscopic representation is abstract and does not fulfill. Based on the statement of the result of the psychology study in the article that the ability to think in chemistry is a 3 level. Namely the macroscopic level, symbolic level, and then the submicroscopic level. So the author encouraged the large part of her argument that virtual laboratory simultaneously support the 3 levels of chemical concepts together with dynamic visualization at the submicroscopic level. What is the positive aspect? This article contains information and provides a solution to the difficulty to understanding the submicroscopic level concept. The last is contradiction. What is the contradiction in journal? I think there is contradiction in the explanation of real-world experiment and virtual experiment. The authors only explain the weakness of real-world experiment and the advantage of virtual experiment, where based on the several studies, it suggests that virtual experiment used with a real-world experiment can provide better experience and better understanding of concept as well. It's better if authors continues the strengthen virtual experience with the real-world experiment, even though the topic discussed about virtual laboratory. The author also does not give a statement that using virtual experiment with animate demonstration or dynamic visual should really be studied and tried first according to the concept to be achieved, because in my opinion, virtual experiment with animate demonstration can also give misunderstanding with the concept to be achieved. Okay, next is summarize or content of the article. In this article, the authors begin by explaining the level of representation of science concept and virtual laboratory. The author write in her article, for example, concepts such as atom, electron, compound, element, and molecules, which are difficult for students to understand because many chemical concepts are radical concepts. After that, the authors explain about real-world experiment and virtual experiment. In the article, the author describe real-world experiment and their obstacles. And then, to strengthen the argument, the authors conduct a didactic experiment by designing a teaching experiment that aims to test the effectiveness of the role of a virtual laboratory that allows submicroscopic demonstration to improve understanding of concepts at the submicroscopic level. This test took place in elementary school involved grade 7 students with a total of 109 students who were approximately 12 years old from 5 different elementary schools in Slovenia. Next is a research hypothesis. The first hypothesis is assume the experimental group or EG student or the submicroscopic level present dynamic with the help of virtual laboratory will have a benefit when compared to the control CG student of knowledge of select topic in chemistry. And the second, we assume the AG student compared to CG student will have a benefit according to knowledge reproduction. And the third, we assume that AG student than CG student will benefit more from understanding to concept. And the fourth, we assume that the AG student will have compared to CG student has an benefit in accordance with the use of. And next is a method. The authors explain the research method used, namely the experimental method of traditional empirical analytic education research. The author designed one factor experiment with parallel classes from the compared groups, namely the experimental or AG group and the control group or CG, and the one of experimental factor or previous score. The two groups, both experimental and the control group, all grade 7 elementary school students, received new materials. The teacher taught the same learning content according the same curriculum, but just different in the teacher in CG using a 3D image in textbook slideshow, and they use computer to explain the submicroscopic level or statics visualization. While the AG's teacher used virtual laboratory or dynamic visualization using the Crocodile Clips chemistry program or application. Next is a result. The author explained the result obtained from testing and data processing that have been carried out by students studying the material with the help of virtual laboratory to more knowledge compared to students who are taught using statics visualization explanation. The first, based on this, the author confirmed the first hypothesis that the experimental group student will have more benefit than the control group according to their knowledge that has been taught about chemical concept after the experiment. And the second, regarding the reproduction of knowledge, the experimental group student have a more benefit than the control group student. So the author confirmed second hypothesis that AG student will have a more advantage for CG student regarding knowledge reproduction after the experiment is complete. And the third is at the level of conceptual understanding, student in the experimental group have a advantage of control group student. So the author confirmed the third hypothesis that AG student more have a benefit than CG student regarding understanding the concept after the experiment is complete. And the last, in terms of the application of knowledge, the experimental group student also have a advantage over the control group students, so that the author confirmed the last hypothesis that each student will have a benefit over CG student when applying knowledge after the experiment is complete. The last is conclusion. In this article, the conclusion of the author's study is present. The result of tests that have been carried based on the statistical results show the experiment group or EG has more advantage with the help of virtual laboratory or dynamic visualization at the submicroscopic level. And then the basic empirical finding obtained by the author, namely at the basic level of science, education, and chemical content, the author established a visualization process in a virtual laboratory that simultaneously contained the three levels of chemical concept, macro, submicro, and symbolic levels. And then the use of virtual laboratory can employ metal model formation at the submicroscopic level. Okay, the last is critical about the journal, axis and the weakness. Axis, the first is this article provide a solution in teaching chemistry to understand the concept of the submicroscopic level using laboratory virtual or dynamic visualization. And the second is complete in describing the topic and data, explaining how the test was carried, processing the test data until the conclusion is obtained. And the third, able to open talk by providing new insight, recording the importance of appropriate evaluation tool in the teaching student to understand submicroscopic concept, and then of course for a teacher. And then fourth, the article also described the feature of the program used in the testing and describe the submicroscopic. And then the weakness is the first, the article does not state the affirmation the real-world experiments are also important, with real-world experiments that are reinforced with the virtual experiment will provide a better understanding and the experience for students. And the second, the article does not provide more detailed information about the virtual laboratory program use. And the third, the article also does not provide information on some virtual laboratory program that can be using. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening attentively. I hope my presentation can give a new information. You can understand what I was present, and also so sorry about my mistake, about review, about grammar, about pronunciation. I will go to answer any question. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stay safe and healthy.